Um, you asked me to give you some thoughts about how Germany remains fit for the future and what will be Germany's role in Europe and what will be the European role in the world of tomorrow. So I suggest I was asked to give a speech of about 50 to 20 minutes, but unfortunately I have to leave definitely at 20 past 4 to get my next appointment, so I try to do it brief so that there is, I see you like to discuss, so that you have enough time probably to ask the questions you are interested in. So I think 2013 seems so far, and the last years as well, to be a good time and a good year for Germany. While the world is in turmoil and the storms rage around us, Israel, Palestine, Iraq, Sudan was already mentioned, but if you look to Ukraine or to Eastern Europe and other areas in the world, it's the same. But Germany at the moment, fortunately, basks in the summer sun, the frenzy of the World Cup, and in economic success. At the moment, Germany is really well off in economic terms. We have the highest level of employment we ever had in German history. Almost 43 million people are working, and we have, on the opposite side, only about an unemployment rate of 5%, the lowest unemployment rate since reunification in 1990. We therefore have the highest tax revenues in our history. Also, our social security system is working quite well at the moment, and we have even for pockets to do politics we couldn't imagine and couldn't believe a couple of years ago. We have a balanced budget on the federal level, and we are working on that on the most federal states. And we want to stop making debts, and we want to start repaying our debts. That means we are on the way in this legislative period to meet the Maastricht criteria, not only to have less debt per year, that means 3% is one of the Maastricht criteria, and that we are going to fulfill. We want to stop now to make any new debts, and we want to try to pay back our debts that we had in the crisis. The highest level of debt rate was 83% of GDP, and now we are probably this year will meet 76%, and we will go below 70% in this legislative period until 2017, and in 2020 we will be below 60% and therefore fulfill the Maastricht criteria. Germany has at the moment competitive services and products, a lot of global players in the automotive sector and the machinery sector, which are well known and successful in the world. And we have, that's our, I would say, the best stronghold. We have a variety of small and medium-sized enterprises which are very competitive and very innovative. Stefan Meyer mentioned he's coming from Bavaria. I'm coming from the state of Baden-Württemberg. For me, it's also not German the first language. For me, it's Swabian the first language, and then then German. And we have, especially in the southern states, we have very competitive small and medium-sized companies which are globalized and have export rates. In my constituency, for example, there are two you probably know, Karcher, this with the cleaning company, or Steel with the motor saws, and they have export rates of more than 80%. All over Germany, we have at the moment an export rate of over 50%, so that we are, you see, we are quite good integrated in world economy. Also, the domestic consumption is playing a key role in the growth at the moment. It's increasing, and we have a comparable high growth rate overall in Germany, expected for this year and the year after, and so on. So that you really can say everything is fine, and we should keep on track in Germany. But this development is neither a coincidence nor self-propelled. It is result of reforms we took in the last 10, 12 years. 10 years ago, 12 years ago, the economists wrote Germany is the sick man of Europe. Today it's the other way around. And it was hard work, reforms on the labor sector, reforms on the budget. We were balancing, or we were hard working on balancing the budget. And we did, even in the crisis, we increased our research and development. Germany today meets 3% of the GDP per year for R&D, and we try to increase it further more, and that it's compared to other European countries, we are quite good at this. But because of the saying, it's true for our nation too, who stops getting better has stopped being good. And that's what I wanted to talk a little bit and then discuss with you. I think if we want that it keeps that way, we have to do some changes in future as well. And that's always a problem. If a nation or people are too well off, they don't like changes. They don't like new ideas. They don't like new infrastructure because they think it's everything for sure without hard working. But that will not be. And therefore, I want to talk to Agenda 2030. We had the Agenda 2010 in Germany, and it's 4 years ago. We had 2010, but we are still talking about Agenda 2010, some at least in this country, and say it was wrong to do this reform or do that reform, but it was completely the right way from my point of view. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been there where we are today. But now we have to focus on the future, and therefore I say, what's the Agenda 2030? What is to do? I just want to mention a few challenges for the future. The largest challenge we have to, I think Stefan Meyer was also talking about a little bit about this, is the demographic challenge. We will lose about 6 million people in the workforce within the next 10 years, 10 to 12 years. I told you 43 million. If we lose 6 million, and that will affect, of course, the economy, will affect our social security system and so on. So that we have to do our homework, that we use our potential even more we do today. That means we have to do or find the right instruments to integrate more the elderly and the more elderly people in the workforce and keep them longer working, or make more flexible changes to retirement. Second one is we have to combine even better to get children and keep working, especially for women. And we also need to increase the participation of women in our economy. We reached a lot, but there is still a lot of potential if we, for example, compare to the Scandinavian countries. And then we still have a lot of people in Germany who don't have an education, who don't have dual vocational training, who are not going to study. And we can't afford anymore to leave these people behind, so we have to find new instruments to integrate them more, especially in the economy. And most of them, Stefan Meyer was talking often people with migration background. So they cannot speak the language, and if you cannot speak the language in Germany, right, so it's a problem to get an education. If you don't have an education, you don't get a proper job, and so you are in a vicious circle. So we have to find way out of this. So that's really our largest challenge we have in Germany, and therefore we also have to find solutions for migration. It was also meant, or also said by Stefan Meyer. And we need, what I will say, instead of an immigration into our social insurance system, we need an immigration in our economic system. That will be one of the challenges in the future. Yeah, then we have a challenge in Germany, in Europe, all around the world, the energy issue. We have very ambitious goals in Germany. We want to reduce our primary energy demand by 50% in the year 2050, by 20% in the year 20, on the basis of 2008. And we want to decarbonize more or less our economy. That means that we want to have in 2050 only or less than about 90% less CO2 emissions than we had in the year 1990. And the rest of our energy should be more or less focused on renewable energy, not only in the electricity sector, also in the housing sector, in the warming or in the cooling sector, or in the traffic sector as well. There's a lot of work to do. We have some goals and we implemented a lot of instruments, but there's a long way to go to reach this goal. Then there is the challenge of digitalization. The digital growth and the infrastructure is crucial for the future development. We want to implement a broadband infrastructure that everybody has access to 50 megabytes in 2017 from now. That's our immediate goal we are working at the moment, and we also want to have some service and digital services and products to meet this. Then, of course, investing even more in research and development, and then we have to reduce our bureaucracy. That's a task forever. We managed to reduce our bureaucracy in the last 8 years by 25%, but at the moment we are implementing new bureaucracy with our new retirement system or with a minimum wage, which is very complicated, so that's a thing we always have to work on. And then we have to close our investment gap we have at the moment, not only on the public infrastructure. I mentioned digitalization, but there is also road and rail work and other things we have to invest more, and we have to find models that there will be invested more, not only public investments by the state. I think we have to find solutions that the money where is internationally there finds the way to come to Germany to be invested here. A good example is is the transmission system of electricity. We have a regulatory system which is, I would say, quite competitive, so that we have a lot of money at the moment coming to Germany to invest it in this infrastructure, and that should be mobilized also on other issues like the telecommunication, broadband infrastructure, as well as in the road and railway sector, for example. So that's what I see as the major challenges in the next years. If we are going to meet these challenges, we have the chance that the growth is going on, and Germany will be in the same position in 10 years and 15 years from now. If we are not going to tackle these challenges, there is the danger that we fall behind again, and we have the same discussions we had 10 to 15 years ago. So let me say something to the European role and Germany's role in Europe, and what will be the challenges there. To give you some figures, at the moment, Europe as a whole, that means the European Union, has less than 7% of world's population, about 500 million. If you look back 70 years, 80 years, there were also about 500 million in German living, and Germany alone had about 5% of world's population when the population was less than billion. If you look to the scenarios, what is upcoming in the next few decades, then we will probably have 12, 13 billion people on the earth, but the European population will stay more or less stable or the same. So we will have less than 5% of world's population in, I would say, probably in 20 or 30 years from now. Today, still, Europe has about 25% of the global GDP, but we have also more than 50% of the social costs or social services in the world. So you see that will be a huge challenge to keep this. What is to do there? I think on a European basis, we also have, first of all, to balancing the budgets that we did a lot of countries have too much or too many debts, so they have to balance the budgets and start to reduce the debts. But you can't do that without an economy which is working. So there we have two pillars. Balancing the budget is one, but it's with balancing the budget alone you will not succeed. We have create growth, and therefore we have to do a lot of reforms we are undertaking at the moment in Europe as a whole. I just can mention, if I look to the clock, some points. I think one thing is also in Europe to fulfill the single European market of energy. It's not fulfilled. On other areas we were more successful. Then I think there is one huge chance for us. That's a broad public debate at the moment. That's the TTIP, Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership. Together with US, we will have the chance to form the largest market in the world, and we, I think, probably will be able, or would be able, if we succeed, to set last time in the 21st century standards on environmental, on labor, and on other issues. If we are not succeed, others will set the standards in the world out of Asia, or maybe in the 21st century out of Africa. For example, Africa will probably, I mentioned the population, I just read a scenario which says that in 2100, that means in 85 years from now, Africa will overtake Asia on population. Africa will have more than 5 billion on population. Today they have about 1 billion, so you can see what is coming on and what is going on there. But in Europe, we only should not, or are not only allowed to focus on budget matters or on financial matters or on economic matters. We also have to speak and act with one voice on foreign policy and security issues as well. Otherwise, we will not be able, I'm convinced on this, to compete in the world and to play a key role in the world. Even Germany, as the largest country in Europe, will not be able a key role in Germany, in the world anymore. I think the question is, if we are able to join forces in Europe, then Europe will be a critical mass and can play a key role on political as well as on standardization, as on economic and innovative developments of the future. So I'm a member of German Parliament, but I'm deeply convinced the future will not need national answers, it will a European answer, and so that will be decisive whether we are able to join the forces in Europe in the next 10 to 15, 20 years in the necessary way or not. And that will be a very decisive discussion and political development in the next years. And from my point of view, hopefully we will succeed. But the outcome is, I think, open. If you look to the latest European elections, we had on the one hand side still a majority of people in Europe who say, okay, now we need a European answer, but we have a lot of Euroscepticism on the other side, and we have a lot of developments in Europe which are going the for that has the potential that Europe is falling in parts or shares again. If you look to Scotland, they have a referendum in September. If you look to Catalonia, there is also ongoing development, and the largest discussion or the largest challenge I see will be probably if UK is discussing or voting on leaving European Union. That would be a disaster for Europe, from my point of view. So we have to keep Britain in the European Union, to strengthen the European Union. So that's what I wanted to say in a brief thoughts and ideas on Germany and what has to be done in future in Germany as well as in Europe. And so now I'm looking forward to discuss with you. We have 15 minutes left, the issues I mentioned, or I couldn't mention all the things I wanted to say originally, so maybe you're free to ask other questions. Maybe I'm able to answer it. Thank you. Please.
Thank you very much for your time and for coming. My name is Juliana. I'm from Germany. And you mentioned the improvement in Germany and as well the role in Germany of Germany in the EU. But you mentioned as well like the world is changing and the increasing role of Asia and Africa. So mentioning the TTIP agreement, I'm wondering if the US is the right partner with the changing world to make such agreements, or if there should, in addition to that, not other agreements with other continents, and what's your position on that?
On the trade issue, we already have a European approach. The EU Commission is negotiating free trade and investment agreements with the rest of the world. Basically, I'm free trader, and history shows if there is free trade, it's always everybody is benefiting, and countries which are participating on globalization and free trade, the people are better off. Countries who are not participating, if you look to North Korea or to Cuba or other strange countries, are not the people are not benefiting. And so, first of all, the best would be we had an international approach. But unfortunately, the Doha round is more or less muddling through. Yeah? There was a minor success in Indonesia last year, which says we are still there and not dead, but it's not going that fast and the way it should be. And therefore, we realized the European Union long time tried to push the Doha round, but then a lot of countries started to do bilateral trade agreements, and so European Union finally did that too. And of course, we finished a free trade agreement with South Korea 3 years ago. It's still under. It still has to be passed in Italy and in Greece. So it's used as it would be already past all the parliaments, and so that is a success. For example, I've been to South Korea a couple of weeks ago. The trade exchange and so on increased, and both are benefiting. We are negotiating this with the ASEAN countries. We are negotiating it with Canada, so it's almost finished. We are negotiating it with Japan, and of course we should do that with a lot of other countries. If there is not a multinational approach, then we have to find a bilateral approach. And the US is, for me, of course, the right partner, but if we succeed with TTIP, that will cover more than 50% of world economy of today. And if we have then the standards, then it's the chance that we have high standards from Europe all around the world together with US. If we are not succeed, there will be, there is negotiating on the way taking place at the same time between US and TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership. And I think for Europe it would be important to be first in over the, how do you say it? You would finish first the treaty. So I see there are a lot of chances in TTIP. TTIP would be a chance to booster the economy in Europe, and we have, if there is higher growth, that's also a chance for a lot of European countries to get out of debts and to get on track again.
Very much. Hello, my name is Ibrahim. I came from Norway, so I would like to.
I'm from Norway.
Norway, yeah, Scandinavian. So I would like to discuss your one issue.
Can you speak a little bit in the
okay. Okay. My name is Ibrahim, and I came from Norway. So these days in Scandinavian, we see some problems. They mentioned it. They said asylum seekers who went to Syria, to Africa, those who are extremists, come back to Europe. Maybe they will make some explosionists. They make some terrorists. What about the EU? Their agenda in security in Europe?
If I understood you right, it was very difficult for me to. You said that there will be a lot of asylum seekers and there will be problems on domestic security? Or?
Yes, go and to Syria or
some
places, yeah.
Mr. Stefan Meyer is our spokesperson on these issues. I more or less see it also from the economic point of view. I mentioned already, I think there is immigration is a chance, but we should use the chance in the right way. In the future, in the past, we didn't do that in Germany. But with immigration alone, we will not tackle the problem. If there are really 5 billion people in Africa, so we have they cannot come all to Germany or to Europe. So we have to find jobs and growth in Africa or in the Near and Middle East, and the population is very young. I'm at the moment 47, and that's the average of German population. If you go to Egypt, it's 18. And in African countries, it's in a lot of African countries even less. So you see what potential is in there and what dynamic. And so we should find solution to use this dynamic also in Africa itself, that people have a chance there. I don't think that we only can solve the problems by establishing new walls and new security systems. Of course, we cannot solve the problem in Europe alone. And therefore, we have to do two things: to do a good immigration policy on the one hand side, but on the other side, to do international policy that will give Africa, a lot of countries there, a chance to growth. And there, for example, I say, and that's still a discussion ongoing at the moment in Germany, and most of the Germans say, oh, we are so peaceful, and we don't want to take part in anything in the world, and we are criticizing US and other countries doing that. But if you look to Mali, for example, the monopoly of the state was challenged. Now we are trying to educate, to train the Mali police force and the soldiers, and then we say we are not going to deliver you weapons. Yeah? That's crazy from my point of view. So if we are really, want to stabilize there, then of course we have in a European approach. Therefore, I'm thinking we should do also a European foreign policy, and Germany cannot hide anymore. That's we are still hide a lot in the world, because we think that to be only peaceful, that would be enough, but that isn't enough. You can see in a lot of the places we already mentioned. Hopefully that tackled a little bit, at least, your question.
Hello. Thank you so much for your talk. I just wanted to go back briefly to TTIP, because it's quite controversial at the moment. And I think, first of all, it's important not to equate free trade with necessary success. NAFTA would be a good example of that. But let's assume that cooperating with the US would be a good thing. What is your personal stand on the investor settlement dispute mechanism, which is really why TTIP is so controversial? So just maybe you can explain really quickly what it is, and then tell us how you feel about it.
Yeah. First of all, a lot of people at the moment are criticizing a treaty which is not negotiated. We just started a process of negotiating. And these international settlement processes and to make investments secure, that was a German innovation in the 50s. We have most of all the treaties signed were Germany developed. Now it went on the European level, and I think we also need such settlements with other states as well, but on a high level, and we have to negotiate this. And that it doesn't mean that our law system is inappropriate or not able to tackle it, but there are a lot of issues. Meistbegünstigung, I don't know what it means in English. That's a question of trade. If you have to everybody gets the same access, or if you look at the moment to US, I think Buy American is a hurdle for a lot of companies, and there you need also have to discuss how to find an instrument to settle disputes. Yeah, just yesterday there was in Den Haag a decision made about probably you heard that UCOS. That was not right for the Russian government to force out Khodorkovsky and other people, and the Russian state now has to pay $50 billion US on this case. It's still ongoing on trial probably, but I think we should have a system, an international system, also for solving trade issues, and therefore I think we should negotiate it. Otherwise, there would be we should have the best standard, and then we can have this standard for other treaties for the rest of the world. And I don't understand. There's very emotional debate ongoing, but I think we should focus on the facts and figures, like we had with the chicken, the glorified chicken. Everybody was complaining about. Now it was realized that the salad in France is also treated by grower and things like that. I think there's also a mixture of anti-Americanism and some emotions at the moment, and on these issues we should look at the facts and figures. And finally, at the end of a negotiating process, which will, from my point of view, probably we try to find a solution at the end of next year. But if you look to others, the trade agreements, we were negotiating for 10 years, 8 years. So there's still a long way to go. And then finally, what we see at the end, what isn't, I think we of course will not approve a system which we say it's not good for everybody, or it's not the best.